Hey guys, this is Kino with ORA, running the Raptor Addicts group. I wanted to bring y'all Adam, which is the director of content at COBB Tuning, and I wanted him to kind of give us a little bit of his insight, some information. A lot of folks in the group and a lot of folks online and even clients ask me a lot of questions. So I wanted you to kind of take the lead and just give us a little bit of, what's going on and what you guys are working on, if you don't mind.
Cool. Yeah. Obviously, with Raptor, it's one of those platforms that's new, but it's also not, because it's an EcoBoost.
Right.
So we learned a ton when we worked on the RS and the Focus ST and the Fiesta and the Mustang. And Ford uses a lot of the same strategies when they're tuning these engines, regardless of how big it is. So we've been able to carry a lot of what we learned over to the Raptor. If you're following us and you're following these guys, then you know that we've got the Accessport out, we've got intake out. But what we're working on right now, and we're actually really close to having ready for y'all, is intercoolers, downpipes, and then of course everything we make. If there's a hard part, we want to have a package that you can get, kind of one-stop shop. So it's really easy for you to buy stuff and then use it. And we always try to focus on addressing what we think is the next best weakness that the vehicle has, and the easiest way to address that through a part in the tune. So that's kind of what's going on.
Right. And a lot of people ask me questions about how do you compare COBB to like this tune or the other tune. And the first thing I tell them is, let's take a step back, and I focus on y'all's testing, and I've tried to explain it to folks about 36,000 plus miles on about 5 total Raptors last time I talked to Nick.
Yeah.
And a lot of the rigorous, tuning and testing and dyno tuning and sending parts to possibly, members all over the United States to test out different, climates and whatnot. But maybe you can do a little bit better job than me, since you're more involved on this, and explain to the folks about what's with your testing, and then we'll move on to the next small step.
So this blue truck over here, which if y'all have seen any of our promotional stuff, you've seen it. This thing has had a really rough life. You can probably see the intercooler kind of poking through here a little bit. This one's a development piece. It's not even painted or anything. It's what we use for R&D. To give you an idea of the testing we've done, as you mentioned, we kind of go all over. This truck was tested this summer in 101 degree temperatures, and just outside of Austin here in Dale, where Rally Ready is, if you're familiar with Raptor X. So it's been literally in triple degree temperatures, and then we've had guys at MAP Performance and CJ Pony Parts and a lot of the big Ford people test where it's like 10 degrees outside, and just to kind of see the range. I don't know if you can see it. We probably took it out. At one point, we actually had a full data logging system where we had sensors in basically every pipe in the whole thing, from the exhaust to the intake to the intercooler charge pipes, so we could measure airflow temperatures all the way from the intake through the turbos and then out the back of the car or the truck, so we can see how each part actually affects performance, regardless of what we're doing, whether you're on the street or actually jumping off ramps or whatever's going on. And that's kind of how we come up with our strategy on what we think the right thing to do is. When we release our stage 2 and 3, in our experience, the intercooler is hands down the best bolt-on part with tuning that you can do for these trucks.
For heat soak, I can tell you from my own experience, we were doing some dyno runs the other day, and by the third run, I was pulling quite a bit of heat. I was almost 150 degrees in the charge pipe, and the truck made less power. And I was like, wow, it's crazy. Like, it made less power. So it's kind of pull timing, or is that not the appropriate term?
I mean, that's pretty accurate. When we were at Rally Ready testing when it was 100 degrees outside, we showed up with the truck basically stock, did some runs, then put a tune on it, but still physically stock. And our driver could get through half a run before he would lose power. And then we would put the intercooler on and then run the exact same run and be able to data log all the differences. And when it gets hot, that's what Ford does, is they pull time. And so if we can keep the temperatures down, then that's where you're going to be able to get consistent performance when you're actually pushing the truck for what it was made for.
The other question for you is, I explained to people, they were like, well, X-Tune makes this much power. And I tell them, does it make it in a sustainable way? Right. And does it make it while your vehicle is still drivable, get problems or misfires or any issues? And I think you guys' focus from the last time I was here is, in my experience having it on a 911 turbo before and a 135i BMW, it's not about how much power I'm going to squeeze out of this engine. It's more of how much power can I squeeze safely and let you have the vehicle you know, the drivability of the vehicle intact, right?
Well, it's power under the curve. If you're familiar with tuning, people know what that means, but a lot of people don't, and they just look at the peak number. And we can make a tune that's going to make the biggest peak number you could possibly, you know, produce out of the engine, but that doesn't mean the truck is faster or drives better. So that's always our focus: is power under the curve, usable mid-range torque, and power that's going to be applicable in multiple situations. And then on top of that, custom tuning. If you use the truck for a specific purpose, that's why we have a Pro Tuner network, and you can tune it however you want. You know, the off-the-shelf maps do have to work for all 3 trucks at the same time, whether you're in Denver or Houston. So there's always that flexibility.
If I am, the other day I had to go out to New Mexico and El Paso area and do some, you know, suspension tuning with my buddies at ORA, and I had to switch tunes. Does that hurt my truck in any possible way? I had some leftover 93 and I had to go to 91. Will that cause any problems for me?
No, I mean, ultimately, we flash these things literally hundreds and hundreds of times in testing. Obviously, every piece of electronics has a shelf life, but you know, you would have to literally flash them thousands of times before you're going to run into issues. The only time you would run into a problem changing tunes is if you changed from a tune that was for something that was wrong. Like if you had the wrong type of fuel and you flashed it for like race fuel and you only had 91, you know.
Right.
But as far as the actual process of flashing, that's the convenience of the Accessport, is that you can just do it any time, any place, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and I've been in a lot of communications with folks who pro tune for you. Some of them are in the Addicts group, and a lot of them are extremely happy to have your platform and build on it. And what makes your platform so much better or great on its own to add the pro tuning for? And what's the process that you put some of these pro tuners in before you let them pro tune for you?
So we have real strict application process where the very most basic thing is you need to send us credentials for what your background is, what tuning software you're already familiar with, what vehicles you've tuned. But then we also have an actual hands-on certification where you can't see it, but on the other side of this building, we've got our own dyno, and we literally set up a classroom with big TVs, so one of our tuners can sit in a vehicle on the dyno while 20 guys can sit in the room next door and hear him talking and literally watch on the TV what he's doing on his laptop. And if you attend those classes, we give you tests, you get dyno time on the dyno with our tuners.
That's awesome.
And if you pass all that and you are approved, then you get certified, and then we list those certifications on the website. It'll say what brands, you know, Subaru, Porsche, Raptor, whatever. It'll show who has actually been in person and been certified. That way you know if that guy's tuning your car, he's literally been over there in our shop being taught how to do it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for talking to us today and giving us this insight. We look forward to, I need to get this intercooler soon. Thank you so much.
Hey,
we look forward to working with you guys. Appreciate it. Have a great one. I'll see y'all later. Have a good one.
And while we were there, it wasn't just Raptors. Actually, we were the very least part of the crowd. What represented the crowd was all cars, BMWs, Porsches, GTRs, Subarus, and great large, and some even Mazdas. There were almost every make and model, and even vehicles that were not tuned by COBB, because COBB tuning isn't just a performance place, it's more of a culture. I hope you enjoyed this vlog today. Follow us and subscribe. You can also find us on Instagram, and you can find us on Facebook, and I will put those links below. If you have any questions or you need help with anything to do with your Raptor or Jeep or any other vehicle, please send me an email and I will get back with you, or leave us in a comment below. Until then, we'll see you later.